I've wanted to make this video for almost a year now, but never uploaded because I never felt safe. I had a lot of fear. I was scared. First things first, before I get into the chaos of the story, I want to say that if you ever find out who these people are, do not go on a witch hunt. Do not DM them. Do not cause hate. Do not attack. Do not do anything. Literally do not get in contact with these people. That is the exact opposite of what I want to happen with this video. When you think of a YouTuber, you probably think of so many positives. There's fans, there's supporters, meetups, you get to go outside and people recognize you. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the opposite of that. The hate, harassment, the death threats, their stalkers. This video is not about, oh, my life is so hard because I'm a YouTuber. It's so tough, I can't handle it. This is for the people who are getting harassed or they're getting bullied because they're not doing the normal thing. And that person might be you. Let's start at the beginning of April 2018. One night, I was in my bedroom, which was in the basement of my parents' house. Something to remember is that at one point in the night, I heard footsteps outside of my window because it's at ground level. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that there was someone outside of my window. I was thinking that there was a squirrel or a possum or something, or it was the wind brushing the grass. Then a few moments after that, around midnight to 1 a.m., I heard somebody breaking into my house. It sounded like somebody was smashing glass. They were breaking the windows. I heard it in the back door. I heard it in the front door. So at this point, I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's multiple people trying to break into this house right now. I hid in my room and then I called my sister because I thought, you know, maybe there's something else. No one's breaking in. It's just she dropped a vase or something. So I call my sister and I'm like, hey, do you hear someone breaking in? And I can tell in her voice the second she's like, Caryn, I think someone's breaking in. And that's when I automatically freak out. I hang up, and the first thing I did is I ran up the flight of stairs to go up to my parents' bedroom, which is on the top floor. I was the only person in the bottom half of my house, so I wanted to be near everybody else. So I just ran up the stairs, and I remember not seeing any damage, but I ran so fast that I didn't even take the time to really look. I just was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to get upstairs and I'm gonna have to see the rest of my family and we're gonna figure this out. So when I went into my parents' room, we locked the door, we had knives, we were shaking. We were calling the police at this time, and the police came over 5-10 minutes later. We were telling them someone's actively breaking into our house, like, please help us. I stay on the phone with the policewoman, and then she tells me, okay, you can be calm, we have officers in the area, they're scouting the whole neighborhood. So I have a relief because I see the red and blue lights outside. So I open my parents' door and I start walking down, and I'm shaking. I've never been this shook in my life, and I noticed that the back door's not broken, the windows aren't broken, but there's this stuff on it, which I couldn't figure out the few seconds that I was walking down. But then as I opened my front door, I realized that nobody was breaking in, but that my house got egged. Right in front of my front door, there were 4 gallons of piss. They all had writing on them facing me so I could read them the second I opened the door that said like piss, F you suck, stuff of that nature. And it was scary because that was just the entryway into my house before I've seen the rest of the driveway. And before I stepped out, because the whole place, the second I opened the door, everything smelled like pee. It was the most disgusting smell. And then the cop told me to be careful because smeared all over my front door was this clearish liquid. And when she looked at the ground and I looked at the ground, there's this water bottle filled halfway with sperm. And it was a lot, which meant there were multiple people, or maybe one person collecting this the whole time, dumping their disgustingness into this bottle, and then they just poured it all over our front door. I was so disgusted. I was just automatically thinking, you know, who would have done this? Who do I know? Why would this happen? Then another cop yelled from the end of my driveway, and he was like, hey, do you know what this says? We don't understand what this means. So I was super confused. So then I grabbed some old flip-flops I'm gonna throw away, because as I step out of my house, I will be stepping in this sperm. I will be stepping into this piss. This is not something I want to bring back into the house or even touch. I walk out to the end of my driveway, and my driveway is quite big. And when I reach the end of it, there's a message written in ketchup for me to see that says, quit YouTube. This says quit
YouTube. They forgot the U.
And that's when I realized that this was personal, and immediately I took responsibility because yes, my sister and I were both doing YouTube at the time, but she was still starting out and I already had an audience, so I thought, you know, this is my fault. This is something that I caused. And maybe somebody hated the fact that I did YouTube and they just decided to come over and literally say, stop doing what you're doing. And then I started scoping around the rest of my house, the backyard, sides of the house, and it was just a mess.
So gross. They got cereal. They put cereal on the ground.
There was ketchup, mustard, ranch, poured all over our driveway, poured all over the cars. There was cereal poured all over our yard, which was a weird thing, but that's what I realized was the footsteps noise that I heard outside that kind of sounded like wind, because there's a ton of cereal poured outside of my window, which meant somebody was outside of my window, and that thought is super scary because I had absolutely no clue who this was. But in reality, they were probably 3 or 4 feet away from me, just outside of my house. All I'm saying is that there was too much of an effort put into this, too much money put into all the products that they used to throw around the house. Then the cops tell me that this is a very serious situation, so they called in crime scene lab, which basically people came over, took photos, took evidence of every single thing, took the sperm, took fingerprints, DNA, the pee, just every single little thing there was. They wrote it down and they took photos of it so they can find who did this if they're in the system. And that's when the cop helped us file out a police report. And then a few hours later, around 3 a.m. or so, the cops left and we were just left with this mess for the rest of the night. I'll never forget the smell of pee all over my yard. You cannot escape it. When I was walking inside from being with the cops outside and talking to them, I realized that I literally smelled like piss and I was absolutely disgusting, so I took the longest shower of my life. I also could not sleep until 7 a.m., not until the sun rose, and even a little after that, because I was afraid of whoever did this, which I had absolutely no clue at the time, would they come back. So then I did sleep and I slept for maybe 2 or 3 hours, but then I woke up and had to go clean up the mess outside. So that morning we could finally see what the damage was, and as you step outside, it still smells like piss. It was like if you drove up our street, you would see how wrecked our house looked and how disgusting it looked. We actually had our neighbors help and volunteer to come clean up with us because it was just too much, and this is not something that happens in my neighborhood. One of them helped us with a power hose, which would get rid of the sauce that has now dried up, and it was cold at the time, so everything was a bit frozen. The eggs were still stuck on the walls. And here's the thing with egging. Egging is considered an act of vandalism because eggs cause a lot of damage. My mom, this makes me so angry. My mom, who was recently divorced at the time, she had to pay over $1,000 of money that she didn't have to fix the house. And that angers me so much because she did not deserve any of that. This $1,000 is money that she could have been putting in to support her kids, supporting her family. Now, usually some high school prank would stop right there, right? But this was no high school prank. Whoever participated in this first situation escalated even further. The next day, my sister and I kept thinking, no, who did this? Who did this? Who do we know that hates us? Who do we know that knows where we live? And that's when we came up with 2 theories. One was this guy named Zach. Zach is a guy I grew up with that doesn't like me whatsoever. I don't understand why. But he's just had this hate for me ever since elementary school. That's really all the backstory that I have. But anyways, a few weeks before this whole situation, he left a hate comment that was kind of suspicious. So me seeing that and me connecting to this, I was thinking, you know, maybe he was planning this a couple weeks ago and he really didn't like us, and so that's why he left a hate comment and now he's doing this. I don't know, that was my first idea, right? But then we thought deeper and came up with, what if it's my sister's ex-boyfriend? My sister and her ex-boyfriend dated for not so long, mainly because he cheated on her and he was manipulative, he was verbally abusive, and around 3 to 4 months before this whole situation even started, my sister actually posted a storytime video on her ex-boyfriend and of him cheating on her. She never said his name, she never said anyone's actual name, but of course, people at school watch the video where it gets around and people start to realize who her ex-boyfriend was. And at that week at school, he got a lot of hate, like a lot of hate. There was a lot of gossip with his name now because people were talking about how horrible of a person he was. How can you treat someone like that? All I can say is that my sister spoke from the heart and she did not exaggerate the story at all. She had no ill intentions and that this kid was literally just a disgusting human being. Another thing to note is that during high school, my sister and I actually didn't have that many friends. And with the friends that we did have, rarely did we ever have people over to our house. And you know, that's for many different reasons, but if we were having a sleepover, I was going to my friend's house, not them coming to mine. We just never had people at our house, so there's just nobody that would know where we live. And the only two people that we could think of was Zach, because believe it or not, we used to be friends just way back when, and my sister's ex-boyfriend, Michael. School starts Monday, and during the semester I was actually taking online classes, so I wasn't physically attending school, but my sister was. And at the time I was thinking, you know, hey, maybe we don't have to get all this police legal stuff involved. How about I just find out who these people are and tell them off in person? So that Monday after school, I drove on over with my phone and my vlogging camera, and I was going to record the situation. I put the vlogging camera in my pocket, so I was recording on two devices in case one like accidentally went out or something. Just in case I needed some sort of evidence, or if he said something that I can bring to the police. It was literally just for my own protection. So I turn off my car, I start entering the back of the school, and as I'm about to approach Michael, I see one of my friends over there and he calls me over and says, "Hey Caryn." So I go out and I talk to him first before I talk to Michael. We're having a 30-second side conversation talking about what our day is or whatever, and then I tell him, hey, you know, it was nice talking to you, but I need to talk to Michael right now. So after that tiny short convo, okay, I then approached Michael and I said, "Michael, can I talk to you for a moment?" Then he walks out immediately with me to the middle of the hallway, and the only thing that I ask is, "So what did you do this weekend?" And immediately he takes out his phone and he says, "I'll tell you where I was Saturday night." I'll tell you where I was Saturday night. Like, oh my god, him saying that made him sound so guilty. First of all, I didn't even remember that this whole incident happened on a Saturday night. And it was kind of weird at the fact that he just assumed that I was already asking him about that situation when I barely even spoke about it to anyone. And then he pops out his phone and starts showing me screenshots of his exact location of that night, exactly where he was driving around that time. And he was like, "Here I was at 1 a.m. with my friends watching the Avengers." Like, wait, what? First of all, why are you showing me screenshots of your exact locations at the exact time? I didn't even remember when the exact time was. Why was he being so defensive to the only thing that I said was, "So what'd you do this weekend?" That was it. He could have just said, "Oh, I just went to the movies." No, I decided to show screenshots on his phone to prove exactly where he was. Remember, I'm recording the audio of this and I still have it to this day. I don't know if I'm going to be showing it in this video, but if I do end up putting it in, definitely stick around. Then, as I am about to say something again, he just walks off, pissed off. He's so angry. And then I laugh because this kid is the stupidest liar I've ever seen in my life. And then my sister, a minute or two after that, 'cause she was in the bathroom, came into my car, and then we were reviewing the audio. It sounds like he was preparing himself earlier that day for some sort of confrontation, something, I don't know, maybe he was worried the police was gonna get him or the school counselor was gonna talk to them, I don't know. But and the fact that he wouldn't show it to me on the app, but instead he was just showing me screenshots, made me think that, hey, maybe it was a friend with these screenshots that sent it to him and was proving where he was that night. So the next day, at around 9 p.m. or so, I hear an air horn outside. And I also hear a car speed off. Maybe they blew the air horn because they wanted to get my attention, so I would go outside and see whatever they left. So in my driveway is my parents' car and then my car. And as I walk outside, I see there's a piece of human shit on my windshield with a notebook sort of letter attached to it. And when I go to open that note, it says, "For your shit content," hence the piece of shit that they left on the windshield with the freaking letter. This was definitely left by the same people who did this egging earlier that weekend. We called the police over to report onto the situation, add to the police report, because this is them coming back, which is kind of freaky. And then the policeman asked, you know, who do you think did this? And we had a couple ideas, and he was like, you know, have you ever thought that maybe it would be a girl? Because the writing was in this sort of girlish handwriting. You know, you can usually tell a guy's handwriting and a girl's. And it was also written in pink. And I don't know any guy with pink pen. So that was a little odd, but it's a detail to remember. He then told us that it would actually be hard to pick up any evidence with this, and they didn't actually cause any damages. So there's nothing he can do for us other than just add it to the police report. I just couldn't help but think that, you know, maybe this is my sister's ex-boyfriend's group, because, I mean, imagine you get confronted at school, right? And maybe you get so angry about it that you get aggravated to do it again. And that's when I found out something insane. So I mentioned earlier that before I even approached Michael, I was talking to one of my friends that said, "Hey Caryn, here's the whole Michael group, and then here's me and my friend who is just kind of hanging out in this area because there's a wall and this is just a small hallway, okay?" Apparently, after my sister and I left, is that Michael started cussing out my friend that I had a 30-second conversation with. He started yelling, "You're such a narc, F you, you're a narc," just cussing him out, causing a scene. So at the time, I didn't know what the word narc meant, and if you don't know, it's just basically someone that calls someone else out or snitches on like a crime or something like that. Michael thought that before I spoke to him, because he probably saw me speaking to my friend, he probably thought that my friend was telling me that, "Oh yeah, Michael did it, Michael did all this, blah blah blah, you should talk to him about it." So that's why I went up to Michael, right? That's probably what he thinks, when in reality, I was planning to confront him and talk to him the second I got to that school. And then I later found out that he DM'd my friend and was cussing him out again. He made a Finsta post about how my friend is just such a narc, a snitch. Like, he's posting about it, he's DMing about it, he's yelling in real life about it. Like, he was just a little too angry for someone who's apparently innocent. That's when I started to get extreme night anxiety. I was paranoid every night. That's when I decided to spend over $1,000 on a security system for my house. Over the next week, as I'm having this security system installed, things got more intense. And through the week, there were multiple video captures of random cars driving up to our driveway, stopping, staring at our house for 20 seconds, and then driving off. It was multiple different cars that would come over on multiple different occasions. It was just not normal behavior for things that happen at midnight, 2 a.m., 5 a.m. One night, I noticed this blue/black sort of truck. It was driving slowly up the street, and then it stopped right in front of my driveway and was staring at my house for 20 to 30 seconds. It was a loud truck, so when I heard it speed off, that was very suspicious to me, and at that second, my senses were coming back and I was freaking out, and I was like, oh my god, they're back, they're back, they're back. And then a minute or two after the car left, it came back, and it did the exact same thing it did before. Slowly come up, stop, stare, speed off. So this time, instead of letting them go, oh my god, I am so silly. I opened my door, my front door, and I ran outside and I screamed at them. I'm like, F off, don't you dare come here ever again. Get the F off my property, all this sort of stuff. I was so angry. All I could capture in this was maybe 4 boys, but I couldn't make out any of their faces because they were speeding off and I couldn't recognize any of them. That could have ended up in a way worse situation with me running out there, but they never came back, which was a good thing. But just a little timeline here. This is 3 weeks after the first egging incident, right? And then with the poop, and then with this now happening, the strange cars coming over. Another extremely strange and very scary incident was when I wasn't home and none of my family was home. There was a group of girls in our security footage that was coming in from the sidewalk. It looked like they were having a sleepover or something. There's around 5 girls or so because they had, you know, blankets on, they weren't wearing any shoes, they were just on feet, they were probably in the neighborhood or something. They're walking up and you can notice that there's like 2 leaders or so, and they're like staring at the house, and they say something, and then the rest of the girls are staring at our house. And so they're coming up to our driveway, and they're ready to pose and take a picture in front of our house, which was very freaky. But we had motion lights, so the lights went off and it flickered and then it turned off, which made it seem like somebody was home. So one girl like freaked out and they yelled, so they went into the middle of the street instead of going to our driveway. One of the leader girls, which you can just tell through body language, she was trying to set up her phone in front of a tree and put it there so she could set a timer, and all these girls were getting ready, group photo right in front of our egged house, which by the way at this time still looked damaged because of all the eggs. The paint was chipped all over. Our place looked like a mess. But then our lights flickered again, just through the motion, so one of the girls screamed or something, and then they ran off, all of them, all at once. None of us could make out who the girls were. Why are people still coming 3.5 weeks later? But it's not over yet. The story is just starting. I still had this major suspicion that it was my sister's ex-boyfriend, and it's the group. So I start snooping on his Instagram, and I find something very odd. He had a picture of him chugging a gallon of milk. And on one of his saved stories that you could view, he was doing this milk chugging challenge with his group of friends. I'm sure most of you guys know what this is, but it's basically you just get as much milk as you can and you just chug it down, and you know, oh, someone's gonna puke, it's hilarious, you puke out milk or whatever. But the thing is what I noticed is on his Instagram and some of his friends, this is not the first time they've done this milk chugging challenge. Then I remember that the gallons of piss in front of my house that first night were gallons of milk. I still had them in my trash can, just never threw them out, I guess. So when I checked the milk in my trash can and compared it to the photo, something that I noticed is that it was all skim milk. But it doesn't stop there. They were also all the same brand, and they all expired on the same day, which meant that you must have bought 4 gallons of milk at the same exact time. And here's the thing, call me crazy or something, but I don't know any family or any person that goes out and buys 4 gallons of milk at the same time at once. Speaking of the expiration dates also expired around a month before this whole incident happened. So it's not like they bought the milk before, like the day before, right? They bought it weeks, months beforehand. The fact that there was just so much piss made me think that maybe they bought it way beforehand and was planning this for over a month or so and was saving up and just constantly peeing in this jug. We update the police report, we put down suspicions, we put down names, we talk to this detective that we have. This is when I go to my school and I'm like, okay, the school can definitely do something about this. I show my counselor the recordings, the pictures, the videos, the audio, everything just making sense. And I was just asking her like, hey, is there any way we can do something about this? Can we have a talk with these kids, with their parents? Can we get their parents, or like something, right? Just so we could make this all stop, because this wasn't just a high school prank anymore. This was like stalking, this is harassment, vandalism, there's just so many things. It wasn't a normal situation anymore. The school tells me that they can't do anything because this happened off of school grounds. All they said was, we'll let you know if we hear anything. But that does nothing. One day, I ended up looking through my Instagram DMs, and I stumbled on this DM that was very strange, and it said, I'm glad you got egged. 1, who says that? 2, I later found out that this kid is actually best friends with Michael. Don't forget this detail, just remember that Patrick said, I'm glad you got egged. Then a weekend morning after that or so, around 9 a.m., I hear a car speed down and an air horn. Very common pattern at this point. I check the security footage before I step outside because I just woke up, and I woke up to this air horn, and I see that there's this gold car that's speeding down the street. And not only do they drive down once and blare it, they drive down twice and do it again. And if they're coming down once, twice, they're probably gonna come down a 3rd time. So this was like, okay, I'm gonna take my moment, I'm gonna get this. So I grab my phone, I put it on record, and I run outside before the car comes back, and I hide behind my car. And as I'm hiding down, I hear the car coming down the street again. So that's when I get up, I just start waving at them so they know that I'm there and they're gonna be embarrassed. And they sped down at the speed of like, the second they saw me, they were like, uh-oh, we're out of here, and they speed off. But the thing is I got their license plate number. Unfortunately, my phone didn't pick up the license plate, but my eyes did, and I memorized it, and I got the license plate number, okay? And that's when we call to update the police report and let them know of this license plate that we got that we believe are the people that are coming back and constantly harassing us. And when they do, they tell me that, hey, you must have read the license plate wrong because this car doesn't belong to anyone near you whatsoever, and it's not even a gold car. So sorry, but you didn't get the right license plate number. So I said okay, hung up, and you know, I just remember feeling so defeated. You know, if you think of me, you might think that, hey, you know, Caryn's gonna find out who's getting it. Caryn's not affected. I'm a very strong person, strong-minded person, and things don't ever affect me. But this constant coming back, this constant paranoia, this was breaking me down. You know, I'm just telling you the events that were happening, but I cannot describe to you the emotions that I was dealing with every day, every night, where my thoughts were, where my mind was. But I felt like they won. It was my only chance. I was so defeated. I was like, well, this is my only chance. I had a chance. I had their license plate and I swore I had it right, but now I don't have it, so now they win, and now like I was so broken. Who was that obsessed? You know, 3.5 weeks in, still going at it with terrorizing a couple girls who just like making YouTube videos. And that's when I realized that I was starting to become obsessed with finding out who was doing this. Instead of putting my energy into living, loving life, doing what I love doing, creating YouTube videos, instead I was constantly scared. I was constantly thinking, who's doing this? Look, researching it all up. I was becoming obsessive with it, and I didn't want to become that. So then for a second I was like, you know what, I'll stop and I'll just let it be, and I'll just be at peace, and if something happens, then something happens. And that's when, just a few days after that realization, already over a month in, they come back. It's around midnight. I just finished taking a shower. I remember putting my hair up in a towel, and all of a sudden I hear bang, 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 bang. So I yell at my sister, did you hear that? And she said, yeah, it sounded like it came from the garage. So at this point I was thinking, did we leave the garage open? Is someone breaking in through the garage? So then I check my security footage and I see what the heck's going on this time. I caught surveillance footage of 4 boys, 3 of them shirtless because they used their shirts as masks to cover their face, while 1 kid actually had a real mask. And what they did was hide behind, at the end of the driveway, hide behind one of our cars, and then they creep forward, all 4 of them, except one of them goes off a little bit towards our front door, starts recording this whole event because #hilarious. They go up and then they go in a line and they bang and they kick on our garage door, while this one kid goes and bangs and kicks on our glass door. We call the police. They come on over right away, but the first thing they do is start patrolling the neighborhood for any person walking outside at this time of night. And the thing with these cops is we're already building a relationship with them, because these cops have come back to my house multiple times, so they already knew who we were, they already know the story, and they just want this over with because they think this is sick and disgusting. My sister looks at the video again, and obviously I can't recognize anybody because they're all covering their face, but my sister notices and recognizes a couple of the boys. She could tell by their body type and the type of clothes that they were wearing, because she swore that she's seen a couple of these kids wear the exact same outfit at school. And one of them was that kid who sent me a DM that said, I'm glad you got egged, which is Patrick. When the cops start asking us questions, they're like, okay, hey, listen, who do you think did this? We'll just search them up in our system, right in our car, and we'll let you know all their information. So the first person we mention is my sister's ex. They look him up on the system, a lot of juicy details I'm not gonna get into, but they call up his mom, and his mom picks up and starts yelling at the cop and is like, excuse me, my son is right in front of me, how dare you say this, blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't go in complete deaf, but I can hear her yelling through the phone. So it's a no-go. Michael is at home. There's absolutely no way he'd be over here. Plus, Michael lives quite far away from our house, so it's not him. So then I tell them about Patrick and how my sister recognizes him in the video. And for some reason, instead of them just calling, because it was around midnight or so, they were like, hey, you know what, he doesn't live too far from here, we'll actually just drive to his house and we'll see if he's home and we'll keep you updated. So we go back inside, we're waiting for about an hour or so, and then we get a call from the cop. He says, so I just have one question for you. What color shorts was he wearing? And we all say orange. Then the tone of his voice, he was like, all right, I'll call you right back. Like, oh my god, it was the most joyful little 10-second call I've ever had. I don't care if we don't catch anyone else. As long as we got one person in on this, we can click everything else together and we can make this stop. Because here's the thing, I don't really care about these boys, and I don't care about who they are. Like, I don't even want to talk to them. I don't even want to mess with them. It was more just like, just stop doing this to us, okay? Because we don't even do anything to you. Why are you doing this? Like, what is your issue? I just remember dancing, and I was crying in joy because all this stress, all this emotional trauma and pain that I was going through with people constantly coming to your house for a month, it's like, it finally felt like, you know, this might actually be over. Then an hour after that, he calls us and says, yep, we got him. He's the one doing it, and he's not with his friends right now, and his parents are very angry. However, they want to come over tomorrow and apologize. I also asked the cop to search up one license plate, which was the license plate that I told the first cop, where they were like, nope, you got it wrong. Just to double check, just to double check, in case this person wrote it in wrong. He looks it up, tells me it's a gold car, tells me the name of the person, which then my sister recognizes, and that meant that a couple weeks beforehand, I was right. Like, I could have had this whole situation figured out if the first cop didn't freaking mess up and write in the wrong license plate. So that really angered me, but it was nice knowing now that, hey, now I have two names, and this Patrick kid can tell me all these other people and tell me what the heck's going on. Fast forward, the next day happens, and his parents come over to apologize. You know, we talked to them for a bit, but then they ask, hey, you know, our son, Patrick, is in the car. Do you want to go talk to him? And of course I want to speak to this kid who's been causing me trauma for the past month. He did tell me almost everything I need to know. I know for a fact he was holding back. I know for a fact he was lying in my face and probably wasn't telling the truth the whole time. He told us the 3 other kids that were in the video, so now we have all their names on this police report. And another point that I really wanted to push and stress is to let him know how lucky he was that the people he decided to pick on were me and my sister. I couldn't imagine if, you know, this was any other girl or any other guy. Let's say they're starting a YouTube channel out, and of course when you're starting a YouTube channel, you're gonna be a little scared, you know, what are kids at school gonna think, you know, of me? What if they watch my videos? What if they make fun of me, right? But then imagine, you know, you're getting constantly cyberbullied. Also combine that with people stalking your house that you don't know for over a month. This very much could have led somebody to kill themselves. That's no exaggeration. That's no pushing it. If we ended up killing ourselves, these kids would be in jail. They'd be in a situation 100 times worse than where they are in right now. You know what happened to this kid? You know, he doesn't get his car and he can't drive for the summer or something, right? I don't know what happened with the other boys, but they are so lucky that they did not end up going to jail for something that could have ended up so much worse. And here's the whole reason why I wanted to tell this story, because this story is not about these boys and how horrible of people they are, and it's more about the individual that has to deal with being different and the consequences of being different. When you think of someone being bullied, you think of the kid that looks a little odd, or the kid that acts a little weird, or maybe this person's doing something that not everyone else does. Say a girl's trying to be on the football team, for example, or something, and you know, she's really passionate about that, but because she's a girl or whatever, you know, she might get bullied for it. Or the boy who's trying out makeup, or he's wearing makeup for the first time at school and everyone's giving him weird looks and stuff. It's like, whatever makes you weird, whatever makes people want to pick on you, is typically your greatest strength. You just don't realize it yet, because every single piece of hate is just distractions. It's not actually there. You are what's here. Your happiness, your dreams, your goals are all right here. All this conversation, all these critics, it's just background noise, and if you get sucked into it and you listen to too much of it, you might get pulled off and it'll change you and you'll think twice about who you are. But once you come back and realize what you really like and you fully support and stand for who you are, you're going to be going places and you're going to be living a life that these people are soon enough going to be like, wow, how did she do that? How did he do that? And in terms of my situation and my story, you know, almost a year later, I've ended up moving out. Hey, little announcement. I've moved out of Nebraska and I've now moved to Arizona. I'm living with amazing roommates. I've been traveling the world. I've been doing the most insane and crazy things. I didn't know my life would take such an uphill after a situation that was such a low. And I just want to let you know it's possible. And just don't give up. Don't listen to distractions no matter how harsh they get. Because I'm just like you, and I've been in your spot, and now I'm in a spot that I've always dreamed of, and I want everyone else to experience that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, if you're still here, comment, like, subscribe, you know. I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah. Peace out, cuties.